Wrist and forearm pain is extremely common with gamers. Endurance training is the most effective approach to prevent and manage wrist pain and is commonly underutilized. This is what I'm going to be talking about today. So let me start by busting one of the most common myths. It is not carpal tunnel syndrome. In those 2,500 cases, we only saw one mild form of CTS, and even then what was mainly involved were the tendons of the hand. I've broken this down in more depth in one of my videos if you do want to check it out, but basically we use the muscles to grip and move the mouse, so the contractile tissue is often what breaks down or gets irritated first. So it's a tendon issue, not a nerve problem. Okay, so why do these things happen? I like to help gamers visualize it in a very specific way. Think of your muscles and your tendons as having a health bar. Every single time you click your mouse, flick, press WASD, you are losing HP. There are things you can do that influence how quickly you lose HP. Death grip, you might be losing 4 HP per click instead of 1. You have a weird grip, same thing. Things like posture, ergonomics, conditioning, sleep, even nutrition can impact this. And when we get to 0 HP, our tendons or tissues get irritated. And that's when we feel pain. On the flip side, there are things we can do to restore HP. Rest, ice, massage, heat, kinesio tape, medication, stretching. But if we zoom out, the most important thing we can control is the size of our health bar. This represents our tissue's capacity or muscular endurance. We can increase the size of our health bar by doing exercises so you can play more and hurt less. Often we play too much, as Ron mentioned, especially with higher strain activities like aim match, death match that can make us lose more HP more quickly. Most gamers who deal with wrist pain just don't have enough health or HP to handle the repeated stress of gaming. Here are the 3 most common reasons why we develop wrist pain or lose HP more quickly. As a side note, these are actually the 8 most common regions we have seen in the past 8 years. And watch until the end, since I do have a special offer for you or anyone watching this video. There are 3 things we can do to prevent or manage wrist and forearm pain. Number 1 is muscular endurance. Hopefully, based on what I said about the health bar, you realize that muscular endurance is the most important. We can increase our HP or build up our muscular endurance to allow ourselves to play for longer with less risk of irritating our tissues. Here are the 2 most common pain regions that we've seen over the past 8 years and the exercises and stretches you can do to prevent or manage pain in this area. If you have pain on the palm side of your forearm or wrist, or you want to prevent issues from occurring on that side, you can start with the dumbbell wrist flexion exercise, rolling it all the way down to your fingertips and then rolling all the way back up. That really helps to target those muscles on the palm side of the forearm. Additionally, you can do a tennis ball squeeze, holding each repetition for about 5 seconds and then finally ending with a stretch for those wrist flexors. This is best done after your gaming session to alleviate some of that stiffness, as I mentioned. For the backside of the forearm and wrist, you're also going to be doing dumbbell exercises, but this time focusing on the extensors or the muscles on the top side of the forearm, performing 12 to 15 reps per set. Then you're going to follow that up with the banded finger extension exercise. This continues to load up those same muscles and tendons, allowing you to build up that endurance. And finally, you focus on stretching those muscles, especially after your gaming session, holding for about 20 to 30 seconds for each rep. If you want a free guide that references exercises and stretches to perform for each of these regions, check out the link right here or in the description below, or you can comment wrist pain and I'll send you the link directly. The second thing we can do is recognize how much stress we're placing onto our tissues and actively have a strategy to manage that. That's what we call load management. The 2 largest variables that affect load are 1, how long we're playing, and 2, what we are playing. So things like deathmatch versus ranked versus aim training have very different intensities. High intensity plus longer duration without a break are what lead to injury. This happens most commonly when new patches get released near the end of a ranked season or just before an actual competitive season if you're in esports, starting an aim training program, and etc. All times in which a lot of gaming is happening to either learn the game or improve your mechanics. So the rule of thumb is that every 50 minutes that you play, you should try to take a 5-minute break. And if you don't take a break or use those 5 minutes, those 5 minutes will carry over into the next hour. So 2 hours, 10 minutes, 3 hours, 15 minutes, so on and so forth. So try a stretch or even go walking during this time. And number 3 is posture and ergonomics. how we hold the mouse, what grip we use, and even our shoulder position can influence the activity of the muscles at our forearm, wrist, and hand. For example, if you use a depth grip, you tend to use more of these palm-sided muscles. If you use a claw grip, you tend to use more of the top-sided muscles, and those can definitely contribute to irritation of our tissues. But surprisingly, posture and ergonomics aren't a large contributor to pain. We often see it contributes maybe 10 to 20%. And this is often because the conditioning or our load management is a larger influence on how much physical stress actually occurs on our tissues. One important thing to note with posture and ergonomics is the wrist position of the mouse. We see this position commonly in individuals who have pinky-sided wrist pain. This often shortens the muscles on the pinky side of the wrist, which can fatigue the muscles on that side a bit more quickly, leading to earlier irritation. You lose HP more quickly when you play, and it can also lead to trouble flicking to the right. This is because we naturally have 20 degrees of radial deviation going towards the thumb and an average of 30 to 40 degrees going to the right. So if your wrists are already here, you have less space to flick to the right and may need to compensate with your arm or your shoulder. 5 to 10 degrees of ulnar deviation is fine, but more than that 10 to 15 can really increase the risk of pain or limit flicking to the right. These three things are all initial great things you can do to start to prevent and manage wrist pain. The quick summary is to exercise to increase your ability to handle more stress without injury, take breaks so you don't accumulate too much stress onto the tissues, stretch and take breaks in general to allow some recovery for the stiffness that occurs with muscles and tendons that are overused, work on your posture and ergonomics as an added bonus. And again, as a reminder, you can get a free cheat sheet in the exercises here. There's a link in the description, or if you want to work with me, do not hesitate to reach out or check the link below. As a special bonus for making it to the end, we recently launched a product called the AI Wrist Wizard. I won't bore you guys with all the details. You can learn more about it in the description, but it's basically a tool that's taken our experience in the past 8 years working with gaming injuries and provides you with an individualized program based on specific assessments that you perform. So using the tool, it'll help you determine the area of discomfort, your specific areas of weakness, and the contributing factors, and then provides this customized program based on that.